Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel, here with another one. And if this is your first time stopping in, welcome. I'd like to say that this is a great place to get 90 DIY specifically for the N52 motor and other just general maintenance advice and things that can be applied across BMWs as well as other makes and models. I normally upload at 5:30 on Mondays and sometimes just randomly throughout the week. I missed my upload this week. I'm sorry. I've been taking care of my mom's animals at her house and didn't have the camera and just never went back home to go get it. So that's why this is going to be coming out a little bit late. I'm going to be doing the belt tensioner DIY, but not today because I've got 2 exams tomorrow, so I need to be studying for them, not working on the car. It does need the belt tensioner, but I'm pretty sure it's going to hold just fine, so I'm really not too worried about that right now. But so if you own an N52 power car, you probably wondered about how are you going to make more power out of it, because they're kind of sluggish from the factory. And if you get on the forums or anywhere, people will just bash you and tell you you're wasting your time and you should just buy a 335, get rid of the N52 car, get an N54, N55 platform. And you know, maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you don't need gobs of power like that. Or, you know, maybe that's just not what you want, or maybe getting a new car isn't practical for you. Like for me, getting a new car is not practical. I would just rather work with what I've got right now because that's what's practical for me. It makes sense right now. You know, so there are ways to do it, and I've done a lot of them to my car. I have not by any means done them all. Before we get into it, some of these may or may not be legal in your state or municipality, so look into your local laws, regulations, and if you're planning on doing it anyway, make sure you have a way to get around it come inspection time. First thing with these cars is the intake side is very restrictive. So that would be the spot that I would start to work with first. You can get the manifold from a 530 is what I did. It was from a 530. The 330 also had it from 2006 models. And it's a 3-stage manifold, so it has 2 flaps that adjust and create different lengths in the runners, essentially, so that you can get more power and flow is optimized depending on the RPM you're at, and it channels the air to the appropriate cylinder that you would want it to go to. Next thing is the air intake box itself. So it is very restrictive, especially on our US models, having that charcoal filter. So there's any number of options you can get, and you can kind of spend what you want to on an intake. My advice would be to find a used intake from somebody. I would go with a closed box too to avoid heat soak. Some of the ones like Engine and those ones are known for heat soaking once the car warms up, especially in like stop and go rush hour traffic and stuff like that, and you wind up losing power actually, even though you will get a better sound effect from an open style setup. So if getting a new intake really isn't in the cards for you, there is an easy way you can cut the charcoal filter out. My previous video, which I will put a card for right here, discusses how you remove your charcoal filter, and you can get like a high flow drop-in filter. It's a lot cheaper than actually replacing the air intake box itself. Then the boot that sits behind it is also restrictive. It has a silencer built into it, and my tuner BPC in Raleigh, they said that they've seen about a 2 to 4 wheel horsepower gain just by replacing that with a straight silicone tube. And I bought one off eBay. I'll put a link to that in the description for you guys, so you guys can go check them out, or Revmotoring. I don't have anything to do with them. I mean, I'm not sponsored by anybody right now. Maybe that'll change one day, but right now I'm less than 400 subscribers, so I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, go check Revmotoring out on eBay and get that for your car. It's one of the best mods I could recommend. It was like a $60 part, so big bang for buck. So basically with your manifold, the boot, and the box, you've taken care of the intake side. There's not much you can do unless you get a BMW performance intake, which will also replace your snorkel. And you could also get like hood scoops. Now there's a lot of debate on whether they actually work or not. I don't have them on my car. I can't vouch for them at all. In theory, they should provide more horsepower at higher speeds by creating a ram air effect and forcing more air into the engine. Whether that actually is true or not, I don't know. So basically, once you've taken care of that, that's your intake side. You can move on to the exhaust side. So for your exhaust, you have two sets of catalytic converters on this car. You have the one that goes on the exhaust manifold itself, you have a set of secondary cats, and then after your catalytic converters you have a resonator and a muffler. So I started by doing a resonator delete. It was my very first video on this channel, and I can say that I didn't notice any difference at all from removing the resonator in sound or power. It may be a tiny bit in sound, but really not much of anything, but you can check that video out. I'll card it right here. And it was just something to do. I spent 60 bucks to have a shop cut it out and weld in a Y pipe. I read on the forums that you could even lose power from removing your resonator only. I didn't notice that to be the case at all, but apparently that is something that could happen. So muffler change. So you can do, a lot of people do muffler deletes on these cars. They don't sound bad with a muffler delete as long as it's just a muffler delete. I know a guy who has secondary cats, resonator, and muffler delete, and this car doesn't sound bad, but it is loud. It is really loud. I mean, I was driving with him behind me, and all I could hear was his car. You know, that's crazy. So I have a Magnaflow muffler. It's a pretty cheap option. It's a universal muffler. It's straight through, perforated with glass packed. I'll link the video for that one too, card it, so you can check that out. I think it sounds pretty good. That sound clip from before, that's my muffler. I also have a secondary cat delete. So cat back exhaust, or I mean axle back I guess is the proper term, which is the muffler section. They're, you know, reported gains of 4, 5, 6 horsepower. Can't really vouch either way. I didn't notice much of a difference. But I did do a secondary cat delete, and that is dyno proven. You can look it up on the forums for 9 wheel horsepower just by itself, no tune, no nothing like that. And I believe that. I noticed some high increases in top end power from secondary cat delete, and they're also heavy, so there's probably some weight reduction going on there. Also, the factory muffler weighs like 40 pounds. My aftermarket muffler, I weighed it, weighs 12 pounds, so that was a lot of weight reduction there too. Then you have headers, catless headers, which is not legal in any state, but if you don't have inspection, you're good, and if you do, well, if you have your car tuned properly, you should just coast right through it as long as they don't do a visual. And most places, at least in my neck of the woods, do not do a visual. They're supposed to, but they're just too lazy to. So there's a few ones there out there, Active Auto Works, Super Sprint. There's some knockoffs on eBay, which I don't recommend. eBay parts don't usually do yourself good. Unless you are buying, like, you know, genuine parts on eBay, that's a little different, but that's a whole nother story. Maybe we'll do a video on that one day. So there are catless headers, and that's supposed to, with a tune, increase your wheel horsepower by about 20. So those are the generic mods covered. Now if you have a manual transmission, they're actually more efficient at getting the power down. I have an automatic, unfortunately, so you can almost see like a 20 wheel horsepower gain after full bolt-ons just by having a manual as opposed to an automatic. But if you have a manual, you can swap the differential to the automatic differential. They have different ratios, and the automatic's differential is more efficient at getting the power down. So while you won't actually be gaining more horsepower, like at the engine, you will get more down to the wheels by swapping your differential. So if you have a manual, look into that. Sounds like a pretty good option. Obviously I don't have one, so I don't really know anything about it, but the data is there for it. So yeah, anyway guys, that's pretty much what you can do to mod this car. Different places online claim different things. There's an article on Mod Bargains talking about getting 70 extra wheel horsepower. I mean, I don't have the headers yet, but I think even if I put headers on, I doubt I would have seen a 70 wheel horsepower increase over stock, so I think they're exaggerating it a little bit. But point is, you get power out of the car, and it's pretty fun to drive right now. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. Debating headers. It won't be happening at least until January if I do it. I haven't really decided, just kind of weighing my options here, because I don't really keep cars that long, so you know, come graduation time in May, I might be looking to sell this car. So, you know, I have no idea. I don't want to like drop a couple $1,000s doing headers and an install and retuning the car and selling it right away. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button, like I said, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.